Oh,
We're live.
I see that. It looks like we're live.
Yes, we are
Excellent.
7 seconds in. Yes, let's go.
So I suppose we
All
didn't really
right.
talk about who's doing an intro.
Well,
It's
we
your,
can
you have the
both do.
floor.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, cuz. Well, I think this is us doing this thing, right? And
Indeed it
I'm super
is.
excited because I was just thinking, and meditating before it was time. And I was thinking about all of the conversations we've had and how it has led us here. And I'm super excited that we actually took this thing from a plan, a conversation, to an actual thing, and we put in the work. So cheers to our first episode of Audacity for breakfast. Over to
Yes.
you.
And thank you for all of you who are joining us along for the conversation, for the questions, and for just the curiosity. I think that that's really important. So you'll hear us say it, and you'll hear us say it time and time again. Stay audacious and keep going.
Yeah, keep going. So, cause I think that we should introduce ourselves since today is the first episode. A couple of people are here because they know you, and a couple of
Right.
people are here because they know me, right?
Right.
So I think that it would be great for us to be able to tell them who we are. And please, if you're watching, oh hi, mommy, you're here. Thank you for coming. So, I can see comments from her already. Let me put it on our screen.
Excellent.
So
Oh,
I
lovely.
can
Okay.
see, yes. So I think we should introduce ourselves, tell our audience who we are, and then we take it up from there. So I think
Excellent.
you can.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sunichi. What's up, my people? I am Senenge Andzenge, Dr. Senenge Andzenge, professionally as I be in those spaces sometimes. I am currently coming to you live from just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the U.S. Um, I think that's yeah, that by way of introduction, more of us, more of me will come out as we, as we tell ourselves a little bit more about who we are and why we're here. But more than anything else, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here and to be a connector and to be a bridge. I'm finding that that is really pulling me as purpose, and that's been a part of my story for a long time. So I'm most especially happy to introduce myself to you all as a connector and as a bridge between different spaces. The money mechanic, introduce yourself to the people.
All right. My name is Christine Vihishima. So I will follow the strides of my cousin and same Sunechi. It's good to be here. I'm a lot of things. I think that the word that encapsulates who I am and what I do is that I'm a multi-potentialite. And what this means is that I am very, very blessed to be very skilled and talented at very many things. Um, and yes, I love to collaborate. I love to execute. And Audacity for Breakfast is just me executing again and again. And I'm pleased to be doing this with blood, actually. So Dr. Seneng is my cousin, like a very far relationship. But yes, he's my cousin, and I'm so excited that I'm doing this with family. So this is me, and like my co-host mentioned, as we go along, you're going to get to know more about us and what we do and why we do what we do. And we're hoping that as we share our stories, it would inspire you to be audacious as well.
So there's a thing I need to point out
All
to the
right.
people because before we got into, so we logged in, before we went live, and it's a marvel to me, folks. If you don't know right now, wherever you're tuning in from, Christine is in the dark. She's in total darkness right now. She doesn't have electricity where she is, and which is coming live from Abuja, Nigeria. Um, and it's amazing to me that despite not having electricity, also let me be clear too to everybody, this is our shared platform. It's Christine's show. I'm along for the ride. So she's running it. She's doing the live cast. She's doing the broadcast. I give her some things, but she's really spearheading so many things. And the fact that you are doing this right now, Christine, in the dark, power through battery packs is just incredible to me. And I applaud you, and I applaud the tenacity and how you show up every day audaciously. I love it.
Thank you so much. When we're talking and I was trying to explain, how I was going to fix my lighting and all, and I told myself this is actually me being audacious, right? And I think we can really start the conversation from there. I think that for me, being audacious is being able to show up, right? Despite all of the difficulties, letting difficulties like these weigh us down, letting not break our spirit. I think that that's one thing that I have learned, or I am blessed to have learned as a Nigerian, right? I feel like each and every day there's so many reasons for your spirit to be broken as a Nigerian, whether you're operating from Nigeria or from outside, because I want to believe, and I would like you to talk about that, what it feels like to be audacious outside of Nigeria. Because for me as a Nigerian, it doesn't take so much to be audacious. Just being able to figure out how to be here in the dark is me saying that, you know what, you're not going to break my spirit, right? I'm going to figure it out. And so I'm not going to tell you the technicalities as to how you can see my face, but trust me, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, right? So I think, Seneng, let's start the conversation from there, right? What does it feel like to be audacious as a Nigerian,
Hmm.
not
So
in Nigeria?
good. And I'm glad you asked that question that way. And I want to address it by talking. Let's break down the name Audacity for Breakfast a little bit. So, in one of our first conversations, one of the things I was sharing with you was some of the challenges that I face as a person of a certain age when I'm trying to enter different spaces in the Nigerian context. I don't get
Mhm.
access because I'm not old enough, right?
Hmm.
But outside of Nigeria, I'm able to freely navigate different spaces and be able to have impact. But when I try to do that in particular places in Nigeria, there's no chance. And so when
Hmm.
I asked you directly, how is it that you are able to, or you've been able to do many different things? How do you overcome the barriers of whether it's age or gender, or the fact that you are literally sitting in the dark right now, and that's not a barrier for you? How do you overcome those barriers every day? And you said to me, without hesitation, I eat Audacity for breakfast.
Yep.
That was your immediate response. And I thought, wow, I mean, if you remember, like I couldn't talk for a while. I was really like, wow, that's something. And then I really thought about that's something, right? If you wake up every day with that idea, or if you embrace every day that, I can, then you can. And if you
Hmm.
can't in one space, all right, but that doesn't mean you can't in other spaces, right? And so hearing you say that really got me thinking about where are the spaces that I feel I can? Where are the spaces that I feel I can easily show up and I can do without fear, without hesitation? And how do I harness that, and how do I embrace that? So as we talked more, really, we started to identify some of those characteristics in ourselves, but then also in different people that we know. And we thought, yeah, wouldn't it be great to just have a space where we talked about how we do those things that
Hmm.
we would otherwise think we can't do? How do
Yeah.
we show up in different spaces,
Yeah.
in different ways, authentically as ourselves, when whatever it is might tell us, no, there's a barrier that, should keep you out. So that's
Hmm.
why Audacity. That's why Audacity for breakfast. And for me, that's why, really, as a state of mind, I'm trying to be more intentionally audacious in more spaces.
Hmm. So as you were talking, I decided to look up. Funny enough, I have never really sat with the dictionary definition of audacious,
Hmm.
right? I just know that audacity just has, so in Nigeria, right? When someone says you have audacity, right? Technically, what they are trying to say is like, okay, so let me use pidgin English. When someone says you have audacity, what essentially they are trying to say is that you get mind. So it's the point
Hmm.
of like, when someone does something, maybe someone talks to you, maybe rudely, and then you get mind to talk to me like that. Like you have the hearts. That
Hmm.
is basically my own idea of audacity. Like, you have the heart to do whatever you choose to do regardless of what is happening. But then I decided to check the dictionary definition of audacity, and it says audacity refers to a bold, daring, or fearless confidence. A bold, daring, or fearless confidence. And I can say that that is exactly how I feel, right? That's why we said that Audacity for Breakfast is conversations for people who are bold enough to build change. Because when it comes to building change or effecting change, if you are not bold, you cannot effect change. And leaning to what you had talked about, when you had first of all asked me, why I show up, why I do what I do,
Hmm.
it reminds me a lot about um a lot of the things I've done over the past. And I've realized that as a pattern, I've always had the same response. When people ask me, why do you do what you do? Why do you work so much in the community? Why are you so people, oriented? And I would always say it's because I grew up in a society where we love to play the blame game.
Hmm.
So if you live in Nigeria long enough, you will know that we blame everybody for everything except ourselves. I can tell you for free. So you can sit in a taxi, and let's say, for example, the taxi man tells you the transport fare and then it's a little higher than what you paid last maybe yesterday. And boom, half of the people in the taxi are going to start saying, oh, it's the president's fault. Oh, if the president did not do this. Oh, this one is this one's fault. Then you're going to hear the person that's going to say, in fact, why did my parents even give birth to me in Nigeria? Oh, it's because my parents gave birth to me in Nigeria. And they're going to blame everybody except themselves. And I realized that because we are so comfortable with blaming everybody except ourselves, we spend so much time doing the blaming that we don't ever think, can I actually make a change rather than spending my time blaming people constantly? So I asked myself, if blaming hasn't solved anything, it means that it's a waste of time to blame. Of course, blaming is different from when you have people take responsibility for what they have done.
Mhm.
But taking responsibility starts from me, right? So since I have seen that blaming has never really changed, so even if you blame the president right now, he's still the president until another president comes in. So are you going to continue blaming everything on him? So for me, it has always been a result of I don't think blaming is solving anything. So I'm going to do what I can where I am. And I'm of the philosophy that not all of us will be world and global makers, right?
Hmm.
I may not be able to solve world hunger, right? I may not be able to solve world poverty. I may not even be able to solve world hunger in my entire state, right? But if in my community and where I am, I can solve a problem. Imagine if I do this and all of us, those of us watching, cause you also do the same in your sphere of influence, then it's going to just be a ripple effect. But the problem is that what we often find ourselves is like a one in maybe 1,000 people that's making the change.
Mhm.
So the effect sometimes is not ripple because in a particular sphere of influence, there's not enough people doing their little pockets of good and kindness and audaciousness, so we can't really feel the impact, but in our own way we're making impact. So for me, that's it. um I've heard too much blaming that I can't deal with it anymore. So if I'm in a taxi and people are complaining, I just plug my I can't deal, because I'm just like, after you're done complaining, nothing is going to change. So what are you going to do about it?
I'm glad you've set that up that way because I want to ask you, excuse me. Okay, so actually first let me take a little step back and bring the people a little bit familiar. So yes, we are cousins. We are cousins in the way that your mother and my father are first cousins. And so
Cousins like
really
that.
we are not that far related, but we
Yeah.
we we only recently have gotten to know each other. And I started to follow you on social. Started to follow some of your activity in a number of different spaces. So I would invite you at this point, you talked about what you do, but and you describe yourself, and I can never put, I always butcher the word, a multi, not a multi hyphenate, but something in
Potentialite.
that realm. So please, first off, what is that? How do you describe yourself? Tell the people what that is, and then also, if you would, tell us a little bit about, like, what do you do? When I say I've been following you for years, I've been following you for years, but it's not one thing that I've been following. So for those who don't know, what do you do?
Hmm. Okay. So thank you for asking me that. Now, um, confession time. I only recently, I think 2 years ago, or maybe a little over 2 years ago, finally found a word
Mm,
to describe who I am. And I remember that the day I made that post on Facebook, I think I titled it "I'm tired of being shamed" or something for being a multi-potential. Like that post blew up. I don't think any of my posts had, because there was just so many people like, "Oh my god, I can totally relate with this. This is so real." And let me tell you what led to that. My mom is watching, and I'm first of all, shout out to her, because to be very honest, maybe if she hadn't supported me, I wouldn't have come to this realization, right? Because growing up, I never had one true interest. And that's how you know who a multi-potentialite is. To cut it short, you can call us multipods, right? Now we never have one true interest. If I was to take us through a journey of my life and the things I have learned, sometimes when I'm talking to people and I'm like, oh, I've done that at some point in my life, they're like, "You've done that too?" And I'm like, "Yes," because I was very explorative when I was growing up. I used to joke about the fact that I had a short attention span, and it was not a classroom thing. It was the fact that I was always looking to explore. I was always looking for the next thing in my head to try out. I
mm,
am adventurous, right? And so I would start a business, and then after a while, I'm like, you know what? I'm bored. I want to do another thing, or I start learning something, and then I realize, well, I've learned it to a point. I want to move on to something else. And I had issues growing up because the average Nigerian, and I'm going to speak from a Nigerian context because that's where I grew up my entire life. The average Nigerian thinks you should only be able to do one thing, and that's all you're
mm,
about. So you're
mhm,
either a lawyer, a doctor, whatever it is, a teacher. They can't fathom the fact that you can be an excellent teacher, still have interest in music, be a writer, maybe have some artistic creative thing about you, still be excellent, have excellent people skills, be a very good speaker. They can't understand that one person can be so talented. They
mm,
always feel that there's something that is, you're not going to be able to do all of them as good as you would do one thing. And this is not to say that those who have niched down and are passionate about one thing are, will I say, less better than people like us.
mm,
It is that we have been wired in a way that we just have the ability to excel at a great number of things at once. And I remember there used to be a statement that used to upset me very much. People would say, whenever I started a new venture, they would say, Christine, jack of all trades, master of none. And it used to upset me because I would take on a new venture, and because I would do it excellently well, no cap. Like I would do it well. So I used to ask myself, but I'm doing this so well. So what is this jack of all trades, master of none? And I would feel so bad. So I started to cower and like, okay, maybe I need to find that one thing, that one. So what is my one thing? What is my one thing? What is my one thing? And
mm,
I'm just like, you know what? Is there really a one thing for somebody like me? And that was how, when I started to read and research, I found out that there were other people like me who
mm,
had interests in different things but were really good at them. Now, if I start to mention some of the things I do, people are just like, wow. When I say I sing, and I always say I sing and I sing excellently well, it's not bathroom singing, it's not in the shower singing. I sing. I have won a singing competition before. Do you understand? So I sing. I've been singing since I was little. I've sang on big stages, on little stages. I've written my songs. I still write songs. I can play an instrument. I play the violin. So like people are just like, it's not possible. Like it's not possible. And I'm like, it is. Like it
Mm,
actually is. I write. I speak well. So I'm like, you do all of these things very well. People actually compliment you when you do these things. It's not like they say you're not doing it well. They actually say you're actually good at this. So 2 years ago, after my quest, I realized that I was normal. And it was just
mm,
a gift that I had. And that's when I found out that we have a name and we're called multi-potentialites or multipods. And when I look at my journey, I can see that I am the direct definition of a multipod. And one thing I learned is that my life is in seasons. And
mm,
so I may not be doing something now because that season has passed. So I will give a practical example. Right now, I'm in my teaching season. I'm in my teaching season. I know that. I have realized that in everything I do, whether my businesses, whatever, even at church and the unit I serve, I'm in my teaching season. And I've realized that I've blossomed like no cap. Everybody I teach is just like, my God, you're such a great teacher. Like you teach, I understand. I've had hundreds of people go through my class. People go to stock market classes, but they come to my class and they're like, oh my God, you taught me the stock market like I'm a 5 year old. And I realized that this wasn't me 6 years ago.
mm,
I knew how to teach, but I was not honing my teaching skill. But right now I'm in my teaching season, and everything I've been doing has been revolving around me teaching. Now I had other seasons. I had my creative season where I was playing the violin, I was learning the keyboard, I was singing, I was writing, I was recording music. I was collaborating with other people. There was even a time I had my drawing season, my illustrating season. So now the interesting thing I've realized is that those seasons, those things you built in those seasons never really leave you. I can pick up a mic and I will sing very well. Except right now I'm not in that season, right? But I have built those skills and they've become like part of my life. And what I have found that I am doing in my teaching season is I am able to relate with a lot of people at different levels. So if you come to me as a creative, I
mhm,
can relate because I've had my creative season. If you come to me as a struggling business owner who's trying to start their first business, I can tell you the story of how I started my first business at 10 and all of the different businesses I've done. And I can relate with you on a certain level. Are you getting my point? If you
mhm,
come to me as someone who's trying to understand how do I navigate my career, I can tell you how I studied law. It took me 10 years to get my law degree. Then I'm pivoting to finance and how that feels like. Right?
mm,
So it's just it's a lot. But yeah, this is me. If someone's talking about serving in the community, I can tell you how I started a nonprofit at the age of 18, right? And how I have run that for 14 years. I can teach you consistency because that's something that I picked up along the way. Doing so, you see, when people say master of none, I beg to differ
mm,
because if I was a master of none, I wouldn't be running a nonprofit for 14 years. So the thing is, we just have a twisted mentality of what master of none means. Am I really a master of none? I don't think so.
mm.
I just think I have a very fun life and I'm not tied to it. Yes. So I think that that's my brief summary of what it feels like to be a multi-potentialite.
No, I think it's brilliant. I think I something that you said that I think maybe the only point that I would differ with you on a little bit is you describe yourself as normal, and I would say no, you're quite extraordinary. I love what you said that it is possible, right? And like in all of these things, it is possible. Um, there are many things that you said that really resonate with me and resonate for me as well. The notion of you know seasons and how we are so many things, and we have many different things at many different points, right? So for me, for example, as I think about, as I listen, and as I've thought about myself and how I identify. Identity is a big thing that I study as a social scientist, and I think about the different things that I am, or the different things that I have been at different points. And I recognize that for myself, I too am not any one thing. I am many things, and I
Hmm.
am many things at many different points. And at many
Yeah.
of those different points, I am also different degrees of any of those many things
Hmm.
that I am, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
for me, it exists in continuums, both kind of like, I don't know, laterally. I'm trying to be fancy, but both sideways and up and down,
Yeah.
and it's fluid. It can shift. It shifts from one moment to another, or from one season to another, or from one instance or one interaction, or just one situation. Or frankly, as I'm thinking of one problem through this lens, well, now let me take it and put it here and think about it through this lens, and what might I come up with? Um,
Hmm.
so I love this idea of limitlessness, right? Other people can identify us any which way they want, as much as they want, but we get to define ourselves. We get to identify ourselves. We get to describe ourselves, and I love all of that.
Hmm. So I want to also add to something that you said, right? I because I ever or rather ever since I found out that I was a multi-potentialite, I started to engage with other people.
Mm,
And and also observing myself. And I realized that I f- believe that a lot, if not everyone, I could be wrong, but I feel like everyone has a multi side to them. Just not many people explore those sides.
yeah, I would
Now,
agree.
for me, I explored I explored everything, and that's why one thing I always say is like I don't have any regrets. I'm not gonna die with any regrets because when I sit down and I think about every single thing I've always wanted to do, I have done it.
Mm,
And that's because I
hmm,
allowed myself to explore. And thankfully, I wasn't stifled
hmm,
because that's another thing I see a lot of young people are facing. So they think they're not multi talented, but it's because they have been put in a box and told that they have to just follow a particular path. So when they're older, they cannot think outside of what they've come to know. But why I say that we all have a multi side to us is because I realize that as we use the talents and gifts that we are blessed with, as people, I don't know if you can relate with this, but
hmm,
it multiplies. You become automatically better at some things. Let me think of how to explain this. So I get a lot of people come to me and say, I'm Christine or Ma or Coach. I want to get into the public speaking space. You speak so well. How did you start? And I'm just like, so they're expecting me to give them like a blueprint
hmm,
or
hmm,
like go and watch this course. I know I had like someone say, could you like send me videos I can watch, courses I can take? And it was really tough for me because I didn't have anything to send to them,
hmm,
right? And that's because I realized that as I explored the other parts of me, I found myself being vocal about what I do and who I am, and I just started speaking. And I just started speaking about the things that mattered to me, really. It wasn't like I set out to be a public speaker. That's what I tell people. I'm like, y- yeah, of course, there are people who have careers off of it, but I think that at a point, speaking opportunities will come to you without you asking, really.
hmm, hmm,
Because, for example, someone told me also, how do you get this speaking engagement? I spoke at a TEDx, my very
hmm,
first TEDx on Saturday, and someone asked me and said, "Oh, ma, so how do you get these gigs?" And I'm just like, they always come to me. I've never asked to speak at an event
hmm,
for the past 6 years. Like I've never pitched myself. It has always come to me. In fact, I've had people pitch me. Like people pitch, oh my God, you need to bring this lady. She's so good. I've never had to ask. And this was how I just started talking about the things that matter to me. And doing that consistently. I tell people when you go to places, you go to events, speak. Speak about what matters to you. Don't be quiet, right? Talk
Mhm.
about what matters to you. You will get better. You will just realize that the more you articulate your thoughts, you take them out of your head and put them through your mouth, you will become a better speaker as you go along. That's what I believe. And so, what I like, my point is, I think we all have a multi side to us, but we don't get to explore it. We don't get to see it until we start to explore the things we already know. Other skills and talents will automatically begin to surface as you explore the different parts of you. I hope I articulated that well.
I think you articulated it wonderfully. Now, it strikes me though that there's a certain element of fearlessness that you must have to be able
Hmm.
to do, or really, or to even just to live out loud. So, can you talk a little bit about that fearlessness? Yes. How do
Yes.
you? Yeah, I don't know. Even just that, just distill that for people who are struggling with that,
So
with how
this
to be
issue of
fearless.
fearlessness, I first of all, I'd say that fear is always going to be there.
Mm,
You're never going to you're always the fear is always going to be in the room. Fearlessness now is, I know fear is present, but I'm going to act like fear isn't present, and I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to do the damn thing.
mm,
I remember, okay, so let me be vulnerable. On Saturday, I will even go for Saturday. I spoke at a TEDx, and they took me backstage to mic me. Now, I'd never spoken at a TEDx before, and so I felt very unprepared. I had created my notes last minute, and I don't know how to recite stuff.
mm,
So I'm either reading or I'm speaking naturally. So that day, I decided to read my thoughts out because I wanted to stay within the time limit.
mm,
So I had my notes down. And when I got to the backstage, people who had known me, who were meeting me for the first time, were like, "Oh my God, the money mechanic, I've always wanted to meet you." And I was hyperventilating, literally.
mm.
I was hyperventilating. Like, I was just like, "Oh my God, oh my God." They were like, "Do you need to sit down?" I'm like, "Yes." So I sat down and I was losing. And so I think a few of them were like, "Is this the money maker? Is this the money maker?" And one of them was like, "Oh my God, Ma, do you want water?" And I said, "Yes, I want water." And all of a sudden, when they started reading my bio, so I had told them that okay, I wasn't thirsty, but they should have the bottle of water handy when I was done from speaking. But all of a sudden, when they started reading my bio, my mouth went dry. Literally, my mouth went dry, and I was like, "Oh my God, please, I need the bottle of water right now." So they had to run, get me. This is like me, Christine, that everybody's like, "Oh my God, I want you to teach me how to speak," and I was literally losing it.
Mm,
I was like, "Oh my God, I hope that." But you know what I said? I said, whatever is going to happen, we're climbing that stage. We are climbing that stage.
mm.
And, I climbed the stage. I don't know if anybody noticed, but I missed. If my first line was a fluke. I was trying to say the topic of my TEDx, and
Mm.
I literally switched it the other way around completely. Literally, I had to say, oh, sorry, then I said the correct thing, but that was me putting telling the fear, you know what, I'm doing this, and it was
Mhm,
smooth sailing from there. What am I saying? That the fearlessness for me is not the absence of fear. It is acknowledging that the fear is there,
mm,
but I'm choosing not to pay attention to the fear. It's like a battle. You know that the enemy is there, but you're not going to allow the enemy win. You're literally going to drag yourself over the finish line. That for me is how I fearlessly done a lot of things.
mm,
So it's not as if the fear isn't there, but I choose not to give it priority. So what usually happens is we give fear priority. So we allow it to be the voice in our head that we keep listening to. And that's why we now shrink. So for me, the fear is there. I just choose not to give it priority. That's
mhm,
that's it for me.
hmm. Again, every time we talk, I keep telling you about the things that I learned from you, and that's one of the things that I continue to appreciate so much about our engagement. This thing of I don't know, not making yourself small. That's an idea that's really been I've been really reflecting on, because over the past few years, people closest to me have been challenging me to learn to be more comfortable in my own skin, right? To show up more as myself, to be more fully present so that people don't know me can get to know me differently. And this is an area that I have been afraid of, right? To be more present, because when I show up as a more full self, that's many people have, or some people have found that either off-putting or intimidating, right? Or
Mm,
or yes, or now people are afraid of me
you'll
because
be
I'm
too
too
much.
articulate,
Yes. Oh
because
my
I'm too much,
God.
you see. And so for me, for the longest time I show up this much. Many people who know me don't know me, because
Mm.
I only show this much, because when it's no, Senenge Kai, you're too much, they're sending it again,
Yeah.
he's too much, or they feel intimidated, or no, because I get excited when I talk, oh no, no, now he's. And so I have found that more and more, I only bring this much, or I only give this much, I only show this much, because I don't want to put people off, or I don't want to scare people or be intimidating. And more I'm embracing that that's not my fear, that's their own,
Woo.
right? And so I need to not
Yes.
take their fear on. And if people are going to be afraid of me, okay, let them be afraid of me, because there are also people who are not afraid of me. And so if I need to gravitate more towards those people who are not afraid of me, then let me do that. And the other people either come or they won't. And that is life. The earth will continue to spin and will continue to move forward. I love that thing
Yeah.
that you said about, get on that stage, just get on that stage. Um, it's uncomfortable, to be sure. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it gets, I want to say it this way. I don't know if it gets any more comfortable, but I think it definitely gets differently uncomfortable. And maybe even
Yeah.
less uncomfortable. But yes, I
Mm.
agree with you that, like, yeah, the fear doesn't ever go away, like, completely. And so the same thing with discomfort. Like, I don't think it's ever going to be just okay, good. Like, I've been a professor, so I've been a lecturer, and I'm the idea of getting in front of a room full of students and speaking is, it's Tuesday. It's every day for me. That doesn't mean that every day I'm not nervous when I get up to do it, right? But, like, yes, in those contexts, no, you can push through and you move on and you do the next thing. And so, yes,
I
those things that you've said. Sorry, no, they really just really resonate.
I want to add something. You really hit a nerve, right? I think that and two things. I I I learned early in life, and I learned this from my mom. I was literally sharing this with a friend 2 days ago, and I said, I my okay, so this is the context. Growing up, I was always seen as the, I'll use Nigerian parlance, the oversabi child.
Oh,
Um, yes,
wasabi.
that's it. Yes, oversabi. Like, so in fact, you know what I say now that I'm older, like, "Ah, I really don't care what you think about me.
Hmm.
Like that's your business. I'm going to do, because in my head I'm like, if you think I'm doing too much, then why are you not doing it? If you were
Hmm.
doing it, I probably wouldn't need to do it, right?
Mhm.
But that's aside. So I grew up as knowing, being known as the over savvy child. So I was the one who, like, in class, I answer questions. So for me, it's like, I like being vocal, right? And
Hmm.
I was never stifled. My mom would always say, if you don't understand something, ask, because we grew up like in a where you don't want to ask so that you're not looked at as the foolish one. And she'll be like, if you don't, maybe because she's a teacher, but she's like, if you don't understand something, ask. If you don't like something, talk. Do you understand that kind of thing? So we'll be in, like, maybe Sunday school class. The teacher will ask a question, nobody wants to talk, and then so I was always answering the questions, and then because I was vocal, of course, I of course now I know I was building myself, so I became competent. Do you
Hmm.
understand? So when they were looking for people to speak on behalf of children, they'll call me.
Even in school, first day of class, if I'm in a place, a training, a conference, as far as I will talk. So most times you go to places, they want me to be either the speaker, the presenter, the moderator, that kind of thing. And so people always used to say, you she too do. And that made people play with my head, like, people, I had friendship issues growing up, and that's like a trauma I'm still healing from, right? Maybe, I'm sure one of these days we'll talk about it, right? It's a trauma I'm still healing from, because I had, like, people I thought who were my friends were not really my friends, because I found out they were part of the people that thought I was the over savvy child, but were just associating with me because they just wanted to chase clouds. Of
Mm,
course, we didn't
mhm,
understand all of these things at the time,
mhm,
right? And anytime I told my mom, I'd come back and I'd be like, oh my God, they're being so mean to me. Or, this person doesn't want to be my friend. They don't want to play with me. They don't want to associate with me. They're being rude and nasty. She would always say something. She would say, when people behave like that to you, they're using it as a front. That's the word she would always use. They're using it as a front to hide their insecurity. It is because they don't have the audaciousness and the boldness you have. So they put up that front and make you feel like they are actually in control, but they're not. Because when push comes to shove, they cannot do what you're doing. And I've
mm,
proven that time and time again. So, one of the reasons why I live fully audaciously is because I believe that a lot of the people who do not like my audaciousness are like that because they cannot be as audacious as I am. They are not ready to be audacious. Now, the second thing I wanted to add to what you said is, it never really goes away, the fear, right? But one thing that has helped me also is I have stopped being afraid of failure.
mm,
I'm not afraid of failure. Do you know that by the time you're not afraid of failure, your fear factor reduces? Yes.
mhm,
For example, let's go back to the TEDx example I gave. I got on that stage and I literally fluked my first line. And they talk about first impressions and all yada, 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 yada. Maybe someone else would have freaked out and frozen and, I just said everybody makes mistakes. In my head, I'm just like, everybody makes mistakes. And I moved on and repeated myself. I said,
mm,
oh, sorry, I made a mistake. And I repeated the topic. If anyone chose to judge me by the first sentence, then that's your business. So the thing is, we're too afraid to fail. And because we're afraid to fail, we want perfection that, to be very honest, doesn't necessarily exist because you're not in control.
mhm,
So for me, I'm not afraid to fail. And I've proven it time and time again. Because if I can tell you how many businesses that I have done that have failed, but it has not stopped me from starting a new one. So when you stop being afraid of failure, you build your audacity. If it was a muscle, then you're literally strengthening your audacity muscle by not being afraid to fail. Because failure, to be very honest, I think it's part of the journey. I
mhm.
think it's part of the yeah. But I had a question for you.
Yes.
And the question I wanted to ask really is, you talked about how, you were used to, like, just showing little parts of yourself. But
Mhm.
I wanted to know, at what point did you realize, what was that eureka moment where you're like, you know what? I can't keep giving part of myself
It,
free.
that's a great question, and I don't I don't know if I've had that moment that I can't keep giving just part of myself. I know I'm very recently recognizing that I am tired of only giving part of myself. Like that is freaking exhausting, and I'm tired of that. Now, about 18 months ago, it was the first time in my life that I had the professional experience of being in a space where I felt I could show up as my full self and I was embraced and accepted. So that was the first time, only 18 months ago. Only 18 months ago. That was the first time that I started to feel like And in fact, in fact, it was the time that Dr. Senenge was born. I mean, I've had my PhD
Mm,
for years and so on, but it was I had an experience 18 months ago where I went and I was interacting with Nigerian university heads in a learning experience, and in that space I showed up in that space with some of my baggage, some of the fears that I have always carried into many other spaces when I'm in my typical spaces. And when I entered into that space with that audience, with those people, many of the things that you would typically feel like either a barrier or would cause anxiety for me were not present in that space. Right. And then I had a full
mm,
experience there where I was just how I was, right? And so like sometimes I talk like this, sometimes I talk like this. And in that space, the people were with me all along the way because they recognized that, okay, yes, no, there's a guy who was born in the US, lived in Nigeria, so Alamazwati, he speaks his own language, but then also went
mm.
back and grew up there. And so, when he comes up and he's Senenge Andzenge, and sometimes he says things like this with accent, and then sometimes he says things like this with an American accent. Like for them, I was fully authentic. And they communicated that to me, both in their actions, but then they also said that to me. And that made me feel, frankly, that made me feel like, one, man, these people get me, right? They get all of me. Also, it made me feel like, oh, these are my people. And so this is my space. And so yes, then it removed many of the things that either caused me anxieties or I was afraid of, but then also it gave me the freedom to fail and not be afraid of that. And so I could be in that space, and I was very comfortable to tell those people at certain points, hey, you guys asked me this thing. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And here's what I know. And some of these people that big oga, it like in that space at that moment, it didn't matter because frankly, me too, I was big oga,
Technically, yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so, if it's a thing of okay, other spaces, other people might say small boy. In this space, nobody was telling me small boy, sit down. In fact, many
Mm.
people were saying, no, start and talk now. How about Dr. Senenge, talk your talk. Yeah, the thing where they been say where that was the thing that they said to me that it gave me energy, it gave me fuel to say, okay, talk my talk, good. In that space too, I open my talks with a team greeting, Sunichi, and so it was in that space as I opened my
Yeah.
talk in that audience where I didn't know anybody. That was the first time also in a space like in a professional space that I offered that greeting, and I heard from somebody and Mukbangsu. Now, the accent wasn't
Wow.
proper.
Oh my
And
God.
yes, now, and then the answer wasn't, I mean, the accent wasn't a Tiv accent, but they knew the response. And just that was wow, okay. Huh. Okay. And so like these things, those experiences, it was that made me start to think differently about how I show up, how I'm embraced, and how then other people have work to do to embrace me. Because if I could go into this space and these people just take me as I am, okay, this guy is coming here, Senenge, that's a name, but he's coming from the US. That doesn't quite match. He walks into this room, good. When I do a professional presentation, I wear ange. And for people who don't know, we come from a Tiv culture, Tiv tradition, and ange is our traditional cloth. And so I wear that typically when I present in a professional space, and it was recognized in that space. I was talking about wearing ange. I don't know if you caught that.
Yes,
But
I
so
got that.
yes, in that space, I wore ange and people recognize it. Then once I started to talk, then people really recognize, oh, in fact, you see ange. They say, yeah, yeah, that's why he's wearing
Yes.
that. That's why, yes. No, me, I represent, so
Yeah.
and so yeah. And so it was one of these things. Yeah, just I don't know, absence of anxiety or removal of anxiety, and then being unafraid to fail in that space. Really, it was quite powerful. It was quite powerful.
Amazing. Amazing. I Oof, I'm thinking about like so many things are like, oh my god, we have unfinished conversations, and I can't wait for us to do this because there's just like so many other things that are coming to my mind, right? Being authentic is so key to being audacious,
Mm,
because I like to always make this quote, right? Where it says, "Man, know thyself, and to thyself be true." Right? I think this is Socrates, right? And I'm just like, until you know yourself, you cannot even be true to
mm,
yourself and even to others, because you don't
mm-hmm,
know yourself. I always
mm-hmm,
tell younger people when I talk with them, know yourself, know your learning styles, know your interests. See, it is so key. Like, I'm not, I, I'm saying I'm not trying to toot my horn, yes, but the truth is I have gotten to where I am because I know myself, Senenge. Like, I
mm,
know myself. I know what I am capable of. And you know how they say this thing of, if they don't invite you to the table, build your table. I'm
mm,
sat on that because I don't even wait for you to invite me to the table. I'm always building tables. Like, a lot of
mm,
the things I have
mm,
done, a lot of the projects I've done, I think about some of the community development projects I've done. I'm just like, you did that. And it's because I'm just like, you know what? I know myself. I know what I'm capable of. And even if no one believes that I'm capable of that, I know I am capable of it.
mm,
And I'm going to do it. And many times when I do it and I show that I'm capable, then people want to associate with you. Know yourself. It is so critical to know yourself. Like, know yourself. I don't know how much I can stress this, but not a lot of people know themselves. They are trying to live other people's lives and wear other people's shoes.
mm-hmm. There's a thing that I picked up from my younger brother, and we were somewhere. I don't remember the exact context, but somebody said something to him about he was trying to do something, and somebody said, "Oh, you can't do that," and he looked at them and he said, "You can't do it."
Hmm.
And like that was for me, that was one of those things that has just stuck with me, because I'm like, no, somebody tells me I can't do something, I understand what they're saying. What they're saying is they can't do it, but they don't know whether I
Yep.
can do it or not. So like, hey,
Yep.
look, don't project. All right. Don't put your
Yep.
mess on me. Like, if you can't do it, respect. I respect that you can't do it. But that does not mean I can't do it. Watch. Just watch. Watch
Watch.
me do it. Yeah. There's a thing I want to say before we go before we run out today. For a couple of reasons. One, it's the first episode, and for me, it's very appropriate that we do it because also she's here. Auntie Esther, Msu, Quishi. Auntie Esther, your mother. We talked about teachers and we talked about great teachers. You and I are both educators. That's one of the reasons that we have connected to do this. As I've described this to a number of different people, I'm quite excited that over the next several weeks, we'll be engaging in this literacy initiative where we will be sharing our own stories, but we will be inviting many other people who are doing a number of different things in a number of different avenues in life to share their own stories, their own stories of audacity, their own stories of inspiration, their own stories too of teaching and being taught. And I need to shout out your mother as an excellent teacher, because she is, and she has been, and she was to me. At 9 years old, when I moved back to Nigeria to live there for a period of time, I was a foreign kid in a foreign space, in a foreign school, trying to find my way. And I didn't know it. And my auntie was a teacher at that school, and she knew it. And when I was struggling and trying to find my way, she would pull me aside and pull me into her classroom to offer support, to offer kindness, to offer, just if nothing else, a little bit of quiet so that I could make meaning of the space that I was in and then be able to navigate it. The power of teachers, and good teachers, solid teachers who believe in you, who build you up, who instill that confidence, is not a small thing. And so, I really, really appreciate, as you have described your mother and the influence that she has had on you in your life. I appreciate so much the opportunity to say to you, to her as she's listening, and frankly to everybody else, the influence that my Auntie Esther has had on my life since I was 9 years old, since. Because even when I was no longer a student at Tiny Tots, she would still come by and see us at Uncle Steve's house. And after years and years, she will still be connected with me, whether it's on Facebook or whatever else it is. And so I have appreciated since day one the role that she has played in my life as a person, but she has played in my life as a teacher, as somebody who I've looked up to. And then that is now manifesting you. And I appreciate that you're following in all of those steps. So this for me is fantastic.
Wow. So I didn't know this story. I didn't know this story, and so this is a lot. I didn't even know that she had the opportunity to teach you, and I'm so glad that we share that. We share that. I think that this is like our bond, really,
I
because
would
we were
agree.
both taught at some point in our lives, by her. And for me, oh, there's okay. So for me, I like to appreciate the fact that teaching molded me a whole lot, changed my life a whole lot. And I think that naturally it has influenced me being a thought leader and a teacher right now. I love the opportunity to be able to mold mindsets and give people clarity. I think that if we have the right teaching and the right knowledge, we will have better lives. I think that the Nigeria that we're looking for, we will find if we have the right knowledge, right? So I think that for us as teachers in our generation, and with what we're doing with Audacity for Breakfast and what we hope to do in the next couple of months, it is us really just replicating what has been poured into us in our own way.
100%.
We're sharing our life experiences, and we're teaching other people and giving them the right mindset. And I think that, in fact, I'm already looking forward to the next episode already, because there's just so much to pour out and
Oh,
so much
yes.
to learn and so much to teach. So Senenge, I want you to tell our audience what's coming. Tell us, what are we in for?
What we're in for, there's some things that I'm really excited about. You know, we have a number of different change makers from different spaces who will be, visiting us on this platform and sharing their perspectives and their experiences. One of the things I'm most excited about, though, is that we are creating a bridge. And so in different countries across the ocean, we're creating a bridge and bringing different voices into different spaces. So one of the things that people can really look forward to is that also we're creating a space, a bridging space for voices from the diaspora to also be able to talk directly to folks in Nigeria, but then also to for folks in Nigeria to be able to talk directly to people in the diaspora, and we can create avenues for idea exchange and really just enriching different spaces and cross pollinating, as they say. So those are some of the things that I'm looking forward to. Who will be speaking? Boy, we've invited and we have confirmation from folks who are bankers, from folks who are doctors of different types, present company excluded. We have attorneys, present company excluded, who will be sharing with us their perspectives, and there we have consultants, international consultants of different types. We have people who work in higher education, people who work in different corporate environments. Um, People from different countries, but who have different connections to Nigeria and to the Nigerian context. And so I'm quite excited over the next several weeks as we start peeling back the different layers to different things, um, again, through various lenses, all leading up to something that Christine and I are quite hopeful we'll be able to bring forward to people. And Christine, I'm going to pitch that back to you to share a little bit about that.
All right, so thank you so much, Cuz, for giving us that lineup. We have amazing people coming. I'm looking forward to what is coming, because there are so many other audacious people whose stories need to be heard. And what we're hoping to do with Audacity for Breakfast is to share these stories with everyone who's interested in becoming audacious. So yes, just like Senenga talked about, we actually are working on something. We're working on a virtual conference that we hope to host before the end of the year. Senenga, are we looking at October or September?
We had
September,
said
October.
September. We had said
Yes,
September. The
September.
thing about it is that we want to make sure that, excuse me, we want to make sure that some of these things line up very well, given different academic calendars, because some of what we're bringing
Exactly.
here is intended towards a student audience or people who are different,
Mhm.
in different spaces in their learning journeys. And so we want for there to be space for people to meaningfully engage. So, folks, stay
Exactly.
tuned. We will firm it all up and let you know exactly when you can expect it.
Awesome. So expect a virtual conference coming from the Audacity for Breakfast team. And what we want to do is bring all of these amazing thought leaders together so they can actually, you know, dial down on their specialties. And like Senenge talked about, we're targeting students, we're targeting young professionals, people who are on their journey to discovery, on their journey of personal growth, on their journey of audacity as well. And we want to be able to organize this and bring the topic of audacity in a very, very different perspective. And we want you to stay tuned. Prior to that, we will be having weekly episodes on our YouTube channel. Please don't come alone. Invite your friends, invite your family. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't. This is a new journey for us, so please show us love.
Share the
Subscribe
videos.
to our, yeah, share the videos as well. We will try and also share like a couple of replays and quotes from our session. But most importantly, we want your presence here and we hope you can join us next week, same time.
Yes. And until then, we
That's
invite you to
yeah.
stay audacious.
Yes, stay audacious. Eat audacity for breakfast. Thank you
Thank you,
so
everyone.
much for being with us. See
Yes,
you
we'll
in
see you
episode
next
2.
time.
Bye. All right.